Saying that Erica Kirk's face changed when Barry Weiss mentioned Candace Owens, it's an understatement. Watch.
The podcaster Candace Owens, okay? At one time, a friend of Charlie's, at one time, an employee of Turning Point. She has been one of the main peddlers of these conspiracies, and she is making a huge amount of money on it. She is building her business off of these lies. What do you want to say to her and the other people that are putting these lies out into the world right now?
Stop. That's it. That's all I have to say. Stop.
Maybe you're not aware of the science behind Erica Kirk's nonverbal expression, but you already can figure out what are her feelings about Candace Owens. But what I want you to get from this video is the ability to spot these changes that can be much more subtle than this. I have analyzed other reactions and statements from Erica, but up to this point, we didn't have such a great close-up example of her change of expression, especially when the name of Owens is dropped. And you might already be aware that what used to be covered by a thin veil of innuendos has become a full-on scorched earth battle. Candace has been making one show after another focused on Charlie Kirk's assassination. Then Blake Neff of the Charlie Kirk Show announces that they will be addressing all of her claims. Then Candace asks why can't it be online so she can do it from her studio. Then we find out through Neff that it was Erica who ordered the challenge. Then Erica tells conspiracists to stop making things up and attacking Turning Point. Then Candace replies immediately saying that it's about her, and all hell broke loose. I mean, this has been developing over just 10 days. It's certainly strange the way time has behaved in 2025. Now, without a shadow of doubt, Erica is literally telling Candace to stop. And I saw Erica's face changing, and I knew that I absolutely had to talk about this because it is very rare to have such a clear-cut scenario in which a person's reaction can be directly tied to a person mentioned in particular. And those of you who have been following my videos know how important it is to spot what happens with a person's face when they are reacting to external phenomena. Maybe somebody arrives, maybe somebody asks a question, or in this case, a very specific person is brought up. So those few seconds after the event are critical, and you're about to know how to make the most out of them. Hello and welcome back, my body language buddies. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the body language guy, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss any of my body language analysis and tips. Let's get down to it. What makes this clip so special is that it starts with the exact opposite of the emotion we are going to analyze. We're expecting these metaphorical daggers in Erica's eyes, but what we see right at the beginning couldn't be further than that. Now, the most important thing here is the first couple seconds that happen immediately after Candace Owens' name is dropped. And what happens is that in the exact frame that Candace is mentioned, Erica's smile starts to fade instantly. But it's not the fading smile that I want you to pay attention to. It's a very subtle swallow that she does while her smile fades away. You notice that due to the angle of her head, which is a bit tilted down and to one side, the shadows obstruct our vision of her throat. But in reality, no matter the circumstances, you should always keep an eye on people's necks for this kind of interactions, because we are much more used to control our faces' emotions, but not that used to conceal other emotional displays such as swallowing. And one of the characteristics of swallowing is that you simply cannot make it more subtle or slower. But what's the meaning of swallowing here? Well, since we're just getting started, we're just going to put a note in there and assume that it was an emotional reaction to the name being dropped. Because what happens immediately after is a blink that completely changes her eye expression. Even after Candace's name is dropped and her smile has almost faded away completely, her eyes remain in the same smile pattern from 1 second ago. It's after that blink that you notice that they change. You know, there's something that changes in them, but you can't tell exactly what it is. But the thing that changed is that you can see more of her iris, which means that her eyelids have become tense. At this point, her smile is almost still there, but after the words, "once an employee of Turning Point," there's no smile left. The only thing that hasn't changed yet is her head tilt, which is in the exact same position. It's a bit hard to tell if her neck was tense, but I'm going to make a guess that it was tense. And that's when her head tilt changes spectacularly right after Weiss says she's the main peddler of these conspiracies, and we get this. This is the exact opposite of her previous head tilt. This is an upward, straight tilt which makes her chin rise over the horizon in a defiant way. This is the face of defiance. This is how you know that Erika is not gonna take prisoners. This is DEFCON 3 level body language, and it's amazing to watch. Now, body language is much more than just facial expression. So if you want to become a human lie detector, I recommend that you get my book, Body Language in 40 Days, the complete step-by-step method to read people like a book, master your own body language, and use both skills for influence and authority. Check the link in the description of this video. So from that defiance, Erika's head changes to one of threat. She lowers her head again, tilts down her head, but this time it's not tilted to one side. It's head on, and her eyebrows are lower. Notice how two facial expressions can be quite similar, as in head tilt, neck covered, part of the upper iris blocked, but you can tell the difference in intensity between the two. And what happens next is something that is one of the most difficult things to spot in nonverbal communication, which is breathing rate. When you have enough experience reading people, at some point you will begin practicing spotting people's breathing rate and breathing patterns. It can be hard, but it's very useful to spot changes in mood, especially when the person is trying to control everything else. You can control your breathing, but it can be difficult to disguise when emotions are too strong. In this case, I could spot that Erika was literally holding her breath, which is again a tell. Let's say that the worst way to react in these situations is letting your breathing pattern become so intense and labored because of your emotions that it becomes apparent. The second level to this is what Erika is doing. She's containing her breath, which is not the best approach in these cases. At least it's something that I advise, because even if it is obvious that she wants everybody to see how pissed she is, she should remain cool and in control. And to present yourself in a calm and collected way, you have to keep breathing like nothing has happened, which can be quite hard sometimes depending on the intensity of your emotions. And that's when Erika says the word.
Stop.
She says the word stop, and she doesn't move her head in any way. She keeps it right there, and then a long pause. This is something that I have seen her doing in other instances, using pauses for emphasis, and this is something that everybody should know how to use. Knowing how to play with the cadence of your words and inserting pauses like this help drive the point home. That you mean business. Then she says, that's it. That's all I have to say. And a couple of things happen here. I forgot to mention in the previous section that you could spot her right eyebrow raising just a bit. That's another signal that doesn't have a meaning in itself, but it's an emotional marker that we should take into account because it helps understand the general emotion on her face. And the second thing that is happening here that might be a bit hard to spot is that she has like 2% disgust face. Like she's scrunching her nose in a way that is very hard to spot, but it's there. Which we can imagine that it can only mean that she finds Candace disgusting. Also, when she says, that's all I have to say, she does a very quick shake of her head. I have explained in other videos that in Western countries like the United States, we shake our heads to say no, but also shake our heads to emphasize what we are saying, as in, that's all I have to say. So that's just an emphasis gesture. And the very last fraction of a second is a quick nod. I found that one a bit confusing because there was no reason to nod at that moment. She could have kept her head fixed, like she had up until this moment, and used another pause to speak for her. But maybe the emotions got the best of her, which is understandable if all that your husband built and literally gave his life for is under vicious attacks. And by the way, maybe you want to know what do I think about what's going on with Candace Owens, Erika Kirk, and TPUSA, so I made a video exactly about that. You can check it right here. And I would love to know what you think about this in the comments. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Body Language Guy. Much love and bliss.